us today for Inspire Washington's City of Seattle Candidate Forum. This is our last candidate forum. We've already had one for the county races for King County, and we also had our one yesterday for the other city races. So thank you so much for joining us. Inspire Washington acknowledges that we and our partners statewide are on the homeland of Native peoples who have lived in this region from time immemorial. We pay respect to their elders, both past and present. We also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands where all of our cultural partners live and work. Currently, there are 42 tribes, 35 of which are federally recognized, that share traditional homelands and waterways in what is now Washington State. Some of these are nations and confederacies that represent multiple tribes and bands. Inspire Washington recognizes all of them. We express our deepest respect for and gratitude towards these original and current caretakers and culture bearers of the region. As a cultural sector, we acknowledge our responsibility to establish and maintain relationships with these tribes and Native peoples in support of tribal sovereignty and the inclusion of their voices in teaching art, heritage, history, natural science, and providing cultural programming. We pledge that our relationships will consist of mutual trust, respect, and reciprocity. Inspire Washington acknowledges that here at Town Hall, we are on the homeland of the Duwamish tribe in the interconnected lands of the coastal Salish people. Inspire Washington is your cultural advocacy organization. We exist to serve every state community, from Spokane to Sequim, from Kennewick to Kitsap, from Wenatchee to Whatcom, and right here in Seattle in King County. We serve all communities by supporting all of you, our cultural partners. You are the ones that inspire Washington communities every day. Inspire Washington's advocacy coalition combines and focuses the energy of thousands of people and organizations and businesses that provide uplifting science, heritage, and arts activities and experiences to every one of Washington's 281 cities and towns. What does Inspire Washington do? We advocate for more resources. Every place where resources are distributed and decisions are made. And of course, who makes those decisions but the folks that we elect? Inspire Washington is hosting this event as a purely educational event. We do not endorse any candidates. But what we want to do is create a forum to ask the right questions. Our cultural future is at stake. Let's have a conversation about this so that all of you can be more educated as you start to ponder who you want to elect. I also want to highlight that we are more than the people sitting in these chairs. We are even more than the many people that are streaming from home and will be watching this recording over the next several weeks. We are the cultural sector, and we are representative of the communities that count on us. We are also thousands of businesses across the state, tens of thousands of creatives and workers and labor unions, hundreds of thousands of volunteers and supporters, and we serve millions of audience members, students, patrons, and other participants. Cultural programs are community-centered. Cultural programs are community-oriented. We are here today because communities from West Seattle to Madrona, Crown Hill to Rainier Valley count on our quality of life programming. We bring joy, and we need more joy right now. We forge human connections. We also drive local economy and serve as the catalyst for our partners in human service, education, and public health, just to name a few. With our partnership, those partners succeed. According to the National Bureau of Economic Analysis, creative economy represents 10.8% of the state's GDP. I know that percentage is even higher here in Seattle. So the decisions we make in the upcoming election will really ripple throughout the economy and throughout every facet of civic life. We are essential to Washington. We are essential to Seattle. We are the anchor that keeps us competitive in the emerging modern markets. All of this valuable community-centered work is threatened. For us, the pandemic isn't completely over, and we need further public support, public partnership, and public investment so that our programs may fully recover and thrive. Whoever wins in November will be a leader in this work. They will be our partners in charting Seattle's cultural future. There are many people I want to thank for today's event. First of all, I want to thank our board of directors for supporting us in this program. I want to thank the partners that invest in our in our Inspire Washington work. And of course, let's give a round of applause to my staff. We've been working super hard with all of the things. Thank you so much to Jesse and to Madeline and to Anna and also to Tori and Jess for being our program support. And let's give a round of applause to our partners at Town Hall. A lot of people believe in this conversation. So, but what I want to start with now is something that is more inspiring than talking about public policy. We have lots of time for that. Of course, let's christen this stage with creativity and performance. We're really thrilled that Zara Martinez Lopez is performing tonight. Originally from Medellin, Colombia, Zara Martina Lopez, she, and he is a Seattle-based dancer, teacher, performer, storyteller, filmmaker, and photographer. Combining mediums such as dance, drag, theater, spoken word, video, and photography, their work pulses with the synergy of myriad techniques that give shape to their unique visual poetry. Let's warm up the stage for Zara.
Hello, I am Sara Martina Lopez, and I know that we are all so different, and yet somehow there is this common energy that joins us all together. We dance before we speak.
We all do. We dance to celebrate, we dance in ritual, we dance to express ourselves, and we even dance for fun.
Every time I dance, I emerge as a better version of myself.
And we even dance for fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this little Sotage party. Enjoy yourself, because it's getting pretty wild, I think.
I believe dance is the medium of evolution.
If you've already found your soulmate, chances are you'll still enjoy a dance every now and then. Or if you're single or with friends, you may have experienced some happy feelings after a good night out of dancing.
When we move together to music, we feel connected. Dance helps us bond.
Dancing triggers a certain state of mind which causes positive effects. And to understand these effects, we first have to explain what happens in your brain when you hear music.
Imagine a city that dances more, a community that have the space for development through the arts.
Dancing is in our genes. Our brains react to it and even rewards us for having a good boogie by releasing dopamine. But dancing has more serious positive effects. Some researchers believe that dancing might even help us fight depression.
As a trans body, public safety is very important because I want to live in a city without fear. And I believe that real change begins from within. And that's why I stay true to myself.
Doesn't this all just sound amazing? It's clear. Dancing is good for us. And while we still can't dance in the ways we're used to, I definitely encourage you to dance however you can. So moonwalk through the bathroom, waltz over Zoom, dance with your Tinder date, from a safe distance, of course, and twerk on TikTok.
Oh my gosh, you see that? I've never seen someone so pretty before.
Oh, I'm so pretty, look at me, I'm a masterpiece. Got my nails done when I walk, everybody freeze. Looking tip-top, keeping shape like an athlete. I deserve the best, cause I love who I really be.
Thank you to all of you standing here tonight, outlining your plans for restoring, supporting, and expanding the regional cultural arts, heritage, and natural science field. I believe a progressive city is acknowledging the worth of culture, heritage, up through movement. Thank you, Inspired, for having me. Maren, Rob, Ron, Maritza, Dan, Pete, Andrew, Bob, and those who were here last night, and all of you listening. I wish you all more dance. Good night.
I love that. I wish you all more dance. Thank you. Another round of applause. Thank you. All right, we're going to do a little bit of a scene change, but I want to set the stage for today's conversation. Now, when we started talking about doing a candidate forum again this year, I want to tell you, I mean, all of us on staff at Inspire Washington, we have a lot of thoughts and ideas about the things we want to hear about from our candidates, but it's not about me, and it's not about my team, and it's not even about you individually. It is about us. We work together, right? So Inspire Washington always operates with a spirit of bringing people together to really work together and collaborate, even in conversations like this. So what we did is we identified a variety of diverse leaders in the science, heritage, and art space across the city. We asked them, they were tasked to form district teams. Those district teams varied in size, of 4 to 10 people. And these people got together, and they had lots of conversations. They discussed the challenges, the opportunities in their unique districts. Can we all agree that the arts and culture that happens in each district is unique and special to that place here in Seattle? So we asked them to generate questions. We said somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 5, but we'll probably be able to have time for 3. And that's what's going to happen. Those questions were generated through a group effort, and each candidate will be given 3 minutes to answer each question, and we will rotate through who goes first, because of course we're operating with a mindset of being fair to every candidate. Now, time is important. Jessie is our timekeeper. She will time each candidate's answer, and she will hold up a colored flag, which corresponds to how much time remaining the candidate has. The green flag means keep talking, share your ideas. How will you support cultural programs? The yellow flag means you have 1 minute left. So just giving you a heads up. And when you see that red flag, well, wrap it up because you've got 15 seconds. And in the in an interest of fairness, we will call time. Jessie will cut off the speaker, not to be rude, because we want to be fair to the other person, at the end of 3 minutes, so that everyone can stay on time. And also, we want to get you out early enough and give you time to talk to the candidates at their tables. After this, we will also then provide an opportunity for you to ask your questions, and that's why we have a microphone right over there. Are there any questions about this process? It's pretty simple. All right? Okay. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage representatives of District 4 candidates. Unfortunately, both candidates are at home with COVID symptoms, and we care about their and your health, but we are grateful to have their campaign managers here to share their statements on arts and cultural programming. We made this little pivot. I hope you can be patient with us, and we will encourage you to learn more about these candidates' platforms later. Let's warm up the stage for Wendy and Diego. All right, and please take a seat. We're going to let you introduce yourself uniquely, and then you will each have 2 minutes to talk, to share the platform of your candidate. And we're going to start with Wendy when you're ready.
Okie doke. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm going to read this statement that Maritza wrote because she could not be here because she has a bright red line on her COVID test. Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to this forum tonight. I'm saddened that I could not be with you, as, like so many lately, I am stuck at home with COVID. The arts are near and dear to my heart. When I was growing up in the Bronx, in my low-income, predominantly black and brown community, it was the arts that provided a welcome oasis from the challenges in my neighborhood. My public school trips to the museums, the ballet, and theater performances exposed me to a world that was otherwise out of reach. I want to thank all of you in the arts who are providing the same experience for so many kids across Seattle who are growing up just like I did. As we recover from the pandemic, the arts are playing an even more important role in providing that same respite, inspiration, and beauty to those striving to recover mentally from the isolation we all have experienced over the last few years. The arts are also an integral part of Seattle's recovery. They are critical to the success of our neighborhoods and our downtown. We must continue to fund our arts organizations, support artists and jobs, and ensure that our city is safe for patrons to come out and enjoy our cultural institutions. I am proud that during my time as Deputy Director of the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, we were able to sustain grants and use critical federal recovery dollars to address the needs of the Seattle arts community. Seattle has a history of valuing and encouraging the arts and artists. The success of our city is in part measured by the vitality of our diverse cultural organizations and institutions. Keeping our artists and arts organizations in the forefront of our city planning is critical to the lasting health and well-being of our city. I am deeply sorry that I'm not able to be with you tonight. My email is maritza@maritzaforseattle.com. I encourage you to reach out and introduce yourselves and ask me questions at any time. Maritza. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diego. I'm here representing Ron Davis. I also have a whole slew of apologies for as to why he can't be here, but if I just repeat all those, I will run out of time. So on that note, Ron was, I mean, let's be clear, an accident. Essentially, he grew up, his parents were teenagers when they had him. They were not expecting him, and those first decades, the first decade was really rough. But it wasn't until he moved into affordable housing that things started to turn up, and he sort of rode that wave of good fortune and hard work up into the middle class and up to Roosevelt, where he now lives. And it is that journey that informs much of why Ron is running. He has organized in community spaces for a very long time, in the Roosevelt Neighborhood Council and in the local YMCA and at Sound Transit. And it is all of these things that have informed his platform for how he the vision he wants to bring to Seattle, which is that he wants to make the journey that he made available to all, whether they look like him or identify differently from him or are just like him. Ron believes that Seattle should be a city where we all have a chance to thrive, succeed, buy a home, and age in place peacefully without breaking the bank. That's going to involve investments in affordable housing and realistic public safety plans, which will involve both preventative measures and investing in making sure the right responder goes to the right crisis. Thank you all again, and Ron, again, apologizes that he can't be here.
Thank you so much. To our District 4 team, we're really grateful for all the work that you provided on this, and we will reach out to the candidates and share your questions and see if there's another way of actually responding to the questions that they worked so hard to prepare. So, okay, thank you very much. All right, so we're moving forward into our next race. I'd now like to welcome our District 1 candidates, Maren, Costa, and Rob Saka. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I'm going to welcome, I'd like to allow you the opportunity for each of you to provide a 2-minute introduction. And we're going to start all the way on the far right, being consistent. We're going to start with you, Rob. And we won't time you until you start talking. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, good evening, everyone. And thank you, Inspire Washington and event organizers and hosts. I know a lot of work went into this. Excited to be here. Rob Saka, running for Seattle City Council in District 1, which includes South Park, Pioneer Square, Soto, Georgetown, and of course, West Seattle. I am a public school dad of 3, Air Force veteran, attorney, community safety advocate. I live in Del Ridge with my family. Let's see, I am someone who has, with the help of community and good government programs and services, I'm someone who's overcome the foster care system, overcome public housing, free and reduced lunch, all those things. So, you know, I know what it's like to struggle, like many of the people that I'm hoping to help in this capacity. And I'm also the only one in this race who has actual experience writing government policy and helping to pass law. And I've done that by serving on various government commissions, including to review and update the King County Constitution or Charter, redraw the King County Council districts, and, amongst other things, select a new Seattle police chief. Look, you know, I grew up in low-income apartments blocks away from the Norma Lang Regional Justice Center, where some of my childhood friends would eventually be housed. And, you know, I've made it my mission in life to make sure more people from disadvantaged backgrounds and communities are able to thrive and achieve their true potential in life. I'm running to build an accountable, responsive, inclusive government that centers progressive values and common sense. I want to normalize things like collaborating across differences, finding common ground, and ultimately getting stuff done. And I would love to earn your support along this journey. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maren, Costa. Honored to be here tonight. Thank you, Inspire Washington, for putting on a really great event in a great space. I love this space. So I am a District 1 resident. I've been in District 1 for 21 years and Seattle for 33 years. I'm a mom. I have 2 of my own kids, 2 stepkids. They're all 15 and 17. I moved out to Seattle after college, and I actually started a nonprofit to raise up women and girls, and it was all arts related. I was writing poetry in college, and so eventually became a designer, and became a designer in big tech. When Amazon, you know, when Seattle became a tech town, I became a tech worker, and I started working at Amazon. And in the process of my 20-year career as a senior leader in tech, I managed big teams and big budgets and solved big problems, and, you know, got a bunch of patents and all that stuff. And then I decided, you know, I really don't want to put my brain power and energy into solving problems for billionaires. I want to solve problems for my community and our city. And as a mom, I just really want to see a better future for all of our kids. So I think, you know, public safety is important, homelessness is incredibly important, affordable housing, and then climate justice. And I look at all of that through a lens of workers and worker power, workers' rights, and working families. I see the yellow flag up, and I feel like I'm about to get. Maybe. So I'll just leave it there. I think we'll have a lot of chance to tell more about ourselves in a minute.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, really, you are also lucky that this team has selected Daniel Pak as the spokesperson to ask the questions. Daniel is originally from Oahu. He is a singer, a songwriter, a producer, a nonprofit executive, and arts and cultural champion. As frontman for Core Ions from 2008 to 2018, Pak shared the stage with the Wailers, Toots, and the Maytals, Steel Post, and many of reggae's biggest icons. Pak is the co-founder and executive director of Totem Star, a recording studio and creative youth development organization supporting a diverse community of young recording artists through music production, performance, and mentorship in the district. On November 11th, 2023, Totem Star will celebrate the grand opening of its new world-class recording studio at the historic landmark King Street Station in partnership with the Cultural Space Agency and the City of Seattle. Pak is a Commissioner Emeritus of the Seattle Music Commission and has also served as a governor for the Pacific Northwest chapter of the Recording Academy. In November 2022, Pak was inducted into the Asian Hall of Fame. He lives in Leshai with his wife, his 2 sons, and their adorable Aussie Doodle. Let's warm up the stage for Daniel.
Seattle, how we feeling? Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Candidates, thank you for being here as well. We're all busy folks. I want to give a special shout out to our District 1 team, Anna Tatelman, Elizabeth Rudrud, Imani Sims, and Zoe Wilson for helping put these questions together. Let's get to the questions. Question 1 has to do with taxes. The cultural sector has historically been an integral part of our civic identity. How do we recenter culture in our city through taxes and support artists in an equitable manner? For example, can we leverage admissions tax to support cultural organizations? Could we leverage a cannabis tax to support the cultural sector? First in the hot seat, candidate Costa.
That's a great question. One thing I do know is that the city is heading into, you probably all know this, a budget deficit of, north of $200 million by 2025. And while I am a huge supporter of making sure that we're spending every dollar that we have as efficiently as we can, I know we're also going to need to raise some progressive revenue, and that often comes in the form of taxes. I hadn't thought about an emissions tax and some of those taxes, but those are great ideas, especially for the arts. But we should just make sure that we are supporting arts with our city budget. Arts is an incredibly important part of our city and our culture, and it's healing and transformative, and I want to see it in schools more than it is. I would love to see it in healing mental and behavioral health. My son is mentally challenged, and I think he was really into drawing, and it was very therapeutic. And arts in general can just be so important for that. And we know we're facing a lot of that as a city as well. So if we can, create some progressive revenue via, there were several taxes that were proposed at the city level, a capital gains tax. So I like to call it the extreme capital gains tax, because it's really just going to hit the billionaires. So, and then we could do a vacancy tax. So we have 30,000 units that are vacant in our city. We desperately need as much housing as we can have. We should encourage people to either rent or contribute to our ability to provide more housing. And then there are several other proposed taxes that could just help us bring in enough money, because we know that when money gets tight, things get cut, and those are often social services and often the arts. And we need to make sure that we are protecting our city and protecting our arts organizations so that they can continue to add the value that they do to our society and our city.
Thank you so much, candidate Costa. Same question, candidate Saka.
So taxes. So my starting point is a little different. My starting point is making sure we operate with an existing city budget and identifying efficiencies, streamlining things, making sure that our existing spending is tied to current priorities of the current council and the current mayoral administration, not that of ones 10, 15 years ago, and avoiding duplication of efforts, consolidating things where it makes sense, and finding efficiencies there. That doesn't mean we won't also consider and explore additional revenue opportunities. But my starting place is we need to make sure we're operating efficiently, investing our dollars wisely within existing city budget. And and part of that is through sort of regular monitoring, ongoing monitoring our spending, making sure taxpayers are getting the best bang for their buck, so to speak. And if there's still a need, then let's explore other opportunities. And I've learned that my opponent and I definitely seem to agree on the need to explore things like the vacancy tax, the CEO tax, highly paid CEO tax, amongst other things, preserving Jumpstart. So there's a number of things in that report worth exploring, and I think some, like the vacancy tax in particular, is quote unquote low-hanging fruit, if you will. But make no mistake, we also need to make sure, especially with the budget shortfall, we're operating with an existing city budget. I'd hate to go back to taxpayers, many of which are reeling from inflation and the current situation, and come back with our hands out. I talk to people all the time, all over this district, all over the city in events like this, but all over the district. And people don't have a problem paying more. People love paying their fair share. People don't have a problem paying more if called upon. But what people do seem to have a big problem with, and it's one I understand, is no one's seeing a lot of accountability for outcomes. And so I'm here to prioritize outcomes and results over blank checks. So once we have all that in order, I hadn't heard of that whatever stub tax or whatever idea. That's an interesting idea worth exploring as well. But I appreciate the importance of arts and culture in our communities. So let's get there.
Thank you so much, candidate Saka. All right, we're moving on to question 2. Perhaps my favorite question, unbiasedly. Question 2 is about our candidates' personal relationships to culture. Candidates, tell us about a personal experience you had with an arts or cultural organization. Can you tell us about the wider impact of the cultural sector on the community through your personal experience? How does this inform your ability to advocate for the cultural sector? And for question 2, we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to send it off to candidate Saka first.
Sure. I understand personally, firsthand, the importance of arts and culture that they play in creating a vibrant economy and a thriving overall community. Someone that I had the pleasure actually of serving with on the King County Charter Commission, someone who co-chaired that organization, Louise Miller, former county council member and state legislature. I think she's in the room, but she is a leader. One of the many leaders in this city on arts and cultural issues. I've learned a lot from her and people like her on these issues. But there are so many great, diverse arts and cultural orgs throughout this district and throughout the city. I actually toured a few days ago, a makerspace in Georgetown, which is part of this district. Learned a lot of exciting things. But I'm also someone who I'm the proud son of a Nigerian immigrant. And today I'm wearing a light orangish, almost peach colored shirt for those that might be visually impaired. But I'm only wearing that because my wife tells me, it's a shirt that looks good in the fall. But I could and people that know me know that I could just as easily have worn a dashiki to honor my Nigerian ancestry. And I'm proud of that. And I make no apologies about who I am. And I appreciate, and people who've been in my house, I have a lot of Nigerian artifacts and things in my house. And I appreciate the people that make those. But I aspire to be the best advocate and ally I can be for any one of these causes, because it's really important.
Thank you, Candidate Saka. Candidate Costa.
As I mentioned, when I first moved out here, I started a nonprofit. It was called Synapse, and it was intended to lift up women and girls via the arts. We published a magazine. We hosted performance events. We curated art exhibits. We did poetry readings. And we engaged in the community. So I don't know how long, I'm going to date myself here, as we were talking earlier. I don't know how many people remember Mia Zapata. She was a musician who was murdered when she was trying to get home one night. I don't see any nodding heads, although the lights are bright. But this was in the 90s, the late 90s. And for example, an organization spun up around that called Home Alive. And so our organization connected with that organization, and we continued to organize and build coalitions of arts and culture organizations to have more strength, more power, more of a voice. And we would march together or organize to set up free self-defense classes for women. And so I think that experience, and I've carried that through, I did go into big tech, but, as a designer, and as a designer, also a user experience designer, which means connecting with people through solving problems together. So it just kind of carries through. And I think that ability to bring people together around a common cause, and even if they aren't necessarily, even if they're slightly orthogonal organizations, but building a coalition to have more strength together is one of the most important things that a city council person can do. We need to be able to build community, build coalitions, build power, and then use that for the benefit of the good.
Thank you, Candidate Costa. Our final question for these two candidates is about the soul of Seattle. How would you define the soul of Seattle and/or the soul of District 1? Our district has many diverse and amazing neighborhoods, but these neighborhoods often do not engage with one another. How can council members help facilitate unity within Seattle's various sectors, communities, and components? For instance, how can the soul of Seattle exist in harmony with the tech industry rather than being in opposition? How can we build coalitions and relationships across the diverse neighborhoods and sectors within District 1 to unify artists and cultural organizations? And for this final question, we'll start with Candidate Costa.
That's kind of a great segue into what I was just talking about. And District 1 is so amazing. I mean, Seattle is an amazing city, but District 1 kind of has it all within its, confines. We have Pioneer Square, one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city of Seattle. We have the Duwamish, a sacred Native American site and a Superfund site as well. So all the commerce going from the port to the warehouses in Kent, none of the money stays in South Park and Georgetown, but the pollution does. So we have some of the poorest neighborhoods and most polluted neighborhoods, and then we have, Admiral, where we have Beach Drive and and mansions. So we just have such a diverse number of cultures and neighborhoods and incomes and backgrounds and histories. So I've already begun working closely with especially people in South Park and Georgetown, because those neighborhoods have been historically underinvested in, kind of forgotten and left behind. They're a little bit splintered off, just even via actual highways. And so, you know, we can do things to physically connect some of these neighborhoods, like with physical structures, bike lanes, actually trying to bring connections between neighborhoods with actual, you know, urban design is one thing. But then sharing cultures. There's, you know, South Park has an amazing parade every year. It was the first time they did it. Again, I don't know if anyone's been to the CMAR parade, but it's so amazing. They have the dancing horses. Don't miss it. If you haven't been, don't miss it. But being able to bring that cross, you know, over to West Seattle and bring things from West Seattle over to South Seattle, you know, just using arts and culture and building the coalitions and bringing people together to be able to enrich each other's lives and learn from each other, and then make a closer knit community. And we have already close knit communities in some of these smaller places. We need to keep reaching out and growing those communities, because we need that so much right now. I think we have so much divisiveness in our city and our country in general, and I think we all know we need some healing. Even as Zara was mentioning in the beginning, we need to dance more. I'll just say that. We need some joy.
Thank you, Candidate Costa. Candidate Saka.
Shout out to the CMAR Festival in South Park and the dancing horses and the lowriders, all that. Was proud to march in that parade a few weeks ago, and man, I was amazed. But in any event, so I agree a lot with what my opponent just got done saying, kind of overlaying the history and the landscape, you know, with the current state of affairs in this district. Maybe the difference is that I actually live in one of these disadvantaged communities. I live in Delridge. I'm an attorney. I chose to live in Delridge. I love it. And South Park and Georgetown are also, as we know, they're in the Duwamish Valley. They're overwhelmingly, you know, socioeconomic disadvantaged communities. I come from one of those. Their life expectancy, because of a lot of the pollution there, is 15 plus years lower than everybody else. So, look, I come from one of these communities, and I built my personal life and my professional career off of collaborating across differences, finding common ground, and ultimately getting stuff done. I work with, on the Charter Commission, I work with Republicans and Democrats. This is a nonpartisan office. I'm a strong Democrat, make no apologies about that, but I work with Republicans and Democrats to approve things that voters ultimately approved. And the current state of affairs in city council, it's divisive. It's toxic. I'm told some council members don't even speak to each other. We can and must do better, folks. Again, I built my whole life around uniting and strengthening communities. That's why I also reject the false dichotomy and the false black or white narrative, and we either have taxes or, you know, like are responsible ensuring our existing tax dollars are wisely invested. Nah, I reject that narrative. Multiple complex things can and must be true at the same time. And while a lot of people like to divide us and put wedges in between us and figure out all the ways we're different, and it's important to understand. It's important to understand and celebrate the many terrific things that make us different. But we also need to focus on the many things that we have in common. And I built, again, my personal life and my professional career. I got big tech background, all that, military, oh yeah, government, civic. But I'm here to work together. You asked the question about big tech and how to bridge the gap there. Look, I'm not here to take any individual or organization in this district or in this city for granted. Here to work with them all, and I look forward to that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, candidate Saka. Thank you so much for your participation. These questions. Can we all give it up for our two candidates from District 1? Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
All right, we're gonna mix up the order a little bit right now. We're actually gonna jump to our District 7 race. So at this time, first, I'm gonna welcome up the candidates where they'll share their platform, and then after that, I'm gonna introduce our team. So let's warm up the stage for our District 7 candidates, please. Hello and welcome. Yes, of course.
How are you? Good to see you. Yeah.
Take a seat. We're going to get started with providing each of you with 2 minutes to share a little bit about yourself, to introduce yourself, and share your thoughts on arts and culture. We're going to start far side over there, please.
Okay, is this the good mic?
Oh.
Evidently not. Oh, no, it's working. Oh, it is. Well, good evening.
Yes.
There you go. Good evening. Thank you very much to Inspire Washington. Also, Town Hall, which I know well from my time on the board of the World Affairs Council of Seattle. We had a number of events here, so such a great venue. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. By way of introduction, I'm Bob Kettle. I am a retired naval officer who served a career in naval intelligence. And over the past decade, I have been a grad student at the UW's Evans School. I've been a community leader, civic volunteer, and also I became a dad, the most important thing. I'm not born and raised here in Seattle, but I twice chose Seattle while in the Navy, and I'm choosing Seattle for the third time now because I believe in Seattle. Now, why am I running? I'm running because of the failures of the current City Council to address the issues that we're facing, whether it's public safety, public health, and homelessness. And the impacts of these failures reverberate far beyond, to include, hindering the ability to activate downtown and uptown, so important for the arts venues that we have in our city. It also hinders the viability of our public transport system, again, so important related to the ability of patrons to go to those art venues. And lastly, it hinders the sustainability of our post-pandemic recovery. And this is important because, in the arts, it's business too. The art businesses have payrolls. They have, cash flow challenges. So it's really important. And the inability of the current City Council to create a safe base has really put the arts community at risk. By contrast, I'm looking to bring leadership with a North Star, which I do know to be in that direction, bringing accountability and transparency, not just to the Seattle PD and also to the other electeds, but also to the programs that we oversee, to include those in the arts. And so I'd just like to end saying that as you said, it's so important to include the arts and build community, because in the end, as Inspire Washington says, it nurtures the human spirit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here this evening with everybody here at Town Hall Seattle. My name is Andrew Lewis, Seattle City Council Member, District 7. I'm really happy that in redistricting, Town Hall Seattle is remaining in District 7, so it's a privilege to still have this venue here and welcome everybody here tonight to District 7. Running for re-election for a variety of different reasons, but I'll diverge from the stump speech because we're here for a cultural event, and really want to just talk a little extemporaneously about how important the work of the organizations represented here tonight are, not just to my family, but to my district in District 7. We have just been through a horrific experience with COVID-19 that has had a immeasurable impact on families all over the world, and irreplaceable human impacts of people who have lost loved ones. And the reverberations of the impact of COVID-19 have affected the performing arts, have affected our arts sector in a deeper way than any of us could have imagined at the beginning of this pandemic. My wife and I are season ticket holders for the opera, for the Fifth Avenue Theater, for the Seattle Repertory Theater. To see that thing that is so core to our life and our experience be ripped away when we couldn't do live performance is something that has been really impactful, not just for my family, but for families all over this region who live for this really critical part of what it means to be a Seattleite and be someone who's in the Pacific Northwest for our unique arts and cultural space. I'm proud on the City Council that I've been able to lead in working with our partners at the aquarium to make sure that that project is on time and on budget, to work with Seattle International Film Festival to acquire the Cinerama, to work to make sure that we had relief when times were darkest to help our theaters reopen when we were coming out of COVID. And with that, I look forward to future questions and to support this community with anything it needs going into the future, as I have always done.
Thank you very much. Well, we are really lucky to have a great team, and you're going to meet several of our leaders that will be speaking today, and I want to share you a little bit about them. Derek Baker serves as the Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives and Government Affairs for the Seattle Aquarium. As a member of the aquarium's executive leadership team, he works to build new partnerships and engage with government and community leaders in support of the aquarium's conservation work and overall growth as an organization. He is a key member of the Ocean Pavilion project team and has helped lead communications and government fundraising for the project. Derek joined the aquarium after a 15-year career in political consulting where he worked on hundreds of candidate campaigns and ballot measures across the country and in various public policy roles. Derek's passion for the aquarium and the ocean started over 20 years ago when he began volunteering as a high school and adult volunteer. We are all excited about the Ocean Pavilion. Jesse and I had an opportunity to take a tour when of course it's still in construction. We are really lucky that that's going to be something that we can all experience very soon. Anita Shaw is an accomplished arts and entertainment executive with 25 years of experience in the arts, entertainment, and events industry. Anita hails from New York City, where she worked with organizations such as Lincoln Center, Cedar Lake Contemporary Ballet, Good Morning America, New York Live Arts, Blue Man Group, and numerous Broadway productions, such as the Tony Award-winning productions of Once and Clybourne Park. Anita has had a long career in theater, beginning as a technician and designer, then transitioning into production management, venue management, producing, and executive organizational leadership. Anita has stewarded productions across the nation and internationally. This unique perspective of insight at numerous areas of our industry informs her work in creating more supportive and equitable workspaces in the pursuit of making transformative theatrical experiences. Anita is a strong advocate of the arts with a proven track record of accomplishments, including the ability to generate and implement vision and strategy in all levels of an organization while prioritizing team leadership. Anita received her BFA from Emerson College. If you have not yet gotten tickets for Cambodian Rock Band at Act Theater, it was one of my favorite shows at OSF. It's brilliant. It will be something like you've never seen. Buy them tonight. Laura Marie Rivera has spent her lifetime in the arts, a Broadway actor in New York City, a museum educator in Bentonville, Arkansas, and a nonprofit professional here in Seattle. She is currently working on her doctoral degree at Seattle University and covers arts education for Pacific Publishing Company. We are so grateful to have this team, and I'm first going to welcome our first spokesperson.
Well, there we go. A little higher for me. Thank you to the candidates for coming tonight. Derek Baker, he, him pronouns from the Seattle Aquarium. So excited to be here tonight and to be in partnership with Inspire Washington in this amazing event. So thank you so much for the opportunity. We're going to start with alphabetical order with candidate Kittle is going to do the first question, and then we will switch back and forth. First, I also want to thank our District 7 team. It was an amazing effort. We had lots of contributors and actually had some great turnout tonight. So first question is, in 2022, organizations comprising the Cultural Roundtable brought an estimated 5.7 million visitors to Seattle. For background, the Cultural Roundtable represents arts, culture, science, and heritage organizations throughout the Metro Seattle area and directly contributes to downtown recovery through activation and supported other small businesses throughout the city. What is surprising to most is the attendance of those groups exceeded the 4.3 million visitors brought downtown by all of our local sports franchises combined. Additionally, almost all of these arts, science, and heritage organizations reside in District 7. What do you believe is the role of the city, and more specifically, city council members, in supporting these organizations? And if elected, do you have any policy ideas that would directly bring support for these organizations?
Thank you for the question. And I always start with, like I said in my introduction, we have to start with a safe base. And as it happened, I was on 3rd and Pike today, and I was looking down at Benaroya Hall. And I was thinking about the impact that we've been having, with our crisis on the public safety front and what that means for the arts community. And so that is really where we need to start. And I think that's important because, like you said, we have more people attending the arts versus the sports. It has a huge impact in Seattle, greater than what Manny was saying with the state, maybe nearly 18%. And so we have to nurture that, and we have to support it, and we have to have that kind of the ability for them to come to the venues. And to your point that you also mentioned in terms of the businesses that are being supported by, when you go to dinner beforehand or afterwards, we need to have those businesses also supported, because of the, the relationship between them and how they can move forward. So that is really very important. And, with what's happening now with the King County Council and the new piece with the, the sales tax, we should be looking about how can we work with the county to ensure that those all those venues that we're talking, District 7 is so premier and so important related to the arts, as we know from either downtown and uptown. The arts in uptown is so important, the rep as and the opera and the P&B. We have to have those supported. Again, going back to the point, because this came to me separately on the campaign trail, is that the arts businesses are businesses. They have payrolls to take care of. They have cash flow and the like. And the whole community has to reflect, because we often go to the retail side, but we have to put the attention on this part as well to the arts community, ensure that they're economically viable. So that's my answer to your question. Thank you.
First and foremost, in District 7, we have to have a clean and safe downtown to make sure that that it is possible to access these arts and cultural treasures that are in the core of our city. At the height of COVID, when we were just on the cusp of reopening, it wasn't just a matter of changing and reflecting our public health policies and standards to get these venues reopened. I still remember very vividly in May getting a call from Rick Yoder at the Triple Door. Wanted to reopen, first show since the shutdown in COVID in the spring of 2021. It wasn't just the biological barrier of the pandemic. It was the physical barrier of tent encampment all around that block on 3rd Avenue. Rick Yoder called me and said, we got to reopen in June. We got to bring downtown back. We got to also figure out a way to make sure that not only is my business going to reopen, but the folks who are in this encampment are cared for and have a place to go. We took that challenge on in my office. We brought together a consortium of the Downtown Seattle Association, Public Defender Association. We formed Just Care. We removed all the folks from those encampments to hotel-based shelters. We got them on the track to case management to get them back off the street and into housing. We reopened the Triple Door on time, and they had their first show since the beginning of the shutdown on COVID. When Krishna, the director over the Symphony, reached out to me, said, we're having trouble getting folks back down to the Symphony. We need to do something on 3rd Avenue. We got the same group back together to start the 3rd Avenue project with We Deliver Care, getting Lisa Dugard from the Defender Association, who runs the LEAD program, and getting Dom Davis, who runs We Deliver Care, onto 3rd Avenue to complement the police mission with services to navigate folks off of 3rd Avenue into services. This initiative has helped bring back our downtown core. I had my last meeting of the day at Wild Ginger on 3rd Avenue, as I tend to do for my post-work meeting. I continue to go to the Symphony with my friends, with my family. We can do that because of the public safety investments that this council has made with Mayor Harrell to bring downtown back. August saw us at 91% return of visitors from 2019 standards to downtown, 99% return of hotel occupancy. Why are they coming here? They're coming here to see shows. They're coming to take advantage of one of the most vibrant downtowns on the West Coast. We're going to keep that momentum up. Is it where I want it to go? No, but we shouldn't exaggerate the harms in our downtown for political gain. We need to build on the progress that we're making, because only by telling our neighbors, you want to help downtown recovery, you know how you help downtown recovery? You go to a show at the Fifth Avenue Theater, you go to a performance at the Symphony, you go have dinner at Wild Ginger, and it is safe. Come downtown, it is open for business, and support all the people in this room and the great work that you are doing by going downtown and doing your part.
Good evening. My name is Anita Shah, and I am the Managing Director for ACT Contemporary Theater. My pronouns are she, her. Thanks to Inspire Washington for allowing me to be here as part of this conversation, and I'm thrilled to represent not only ACT Contemporary Theater, but my colleagues at the Cultural Roundtable. With this question, we're going to start first with Councilmember Lewis. Washington ranks 32nd in the nation per capita investment in the arts at just 68 cents per capita, compared to a nationwide average of $2.88. In contrast, Washington is the 9th highest in the nation for participation and attendance of theater and the performing arts. Additionally, the cultural sector is responsible, as Manny pointed out, for 10.8% of our state's GDP, which exceeds both the construction and the transportation industries and represents 5.2% of our workforce. How can the city of Seattle help improve our investment in the arts economy, and how might you partner with the arts and culture sector to better promote regional tourism and economic development to ensure the viability of this vital sector?
Well, we made a big move towards that today in expanding our business improvement area for tourism through our levy on hotel rooms. To expand not just the amount of money that we're doing for business and leisure promotion in the city of Seattle, but expanding what is permissible for us to promote. We used to only be able to promote leisure tourism. We can now promote conventions for our new convention center that's one of our marquee attractions in downtown Seattle. This is going to be incredibly helpful. If someone is coming for a convention weekend in the city of Seattle, you take in a show on the Friday or Saturday night. The residual impact of our leisure and business promotion is going to have a big benefit to our arts and cultural sectors, and I'm really, really excited about that. Beyond that, we saw the really good news today, and something that a lot of us have been working very hard toward, bringing back a version of the 0.1% sales tax to support expansion and access to our arts and cultural sector. This is an incredibly important resource to inject $70 million additional dollars of investment into this industry on an annual basis. And it's going to make a big impact, not just for making sure that the artists who do this work can be paid on time and on schedule, but also making sure that the young people in our city and in our region who might not have otherwise the opportunity to go to the Seattle Symphony or to go to the Science Center or go to the aquarium, that they have that ability through the 15% set aside that we're going to put into that investment to make sure that school groups have that ability to take in our cultural treasures and make sure that everything that we have to offer in downtown Seattle is not just benefiting the city, but is also benefiting the entire region of King County. This is the metropolitan core that we're in right now in downtown Seattle for our entire region. What we are doing with this 0.1% sales tax is making it clear with that investment that we are not just investing in Seattle's recovery, but the region's recovery depends on the vibrancy of our arts and cultural sector right here in our creative campus, and that is going to start with that 0.1% sales tax. I am very much looking forward to supporting that policy on the Regional Policy Committee, where I have a seat, and where, I'm just going to say, I feel really good about our chances, but we all need to mobilize to make sure that that policy gets through the way it needs to be done, with the full amount, with the full power of that authority. We can't see it watered down, and we can't see the priorities diverted. And I look forward to leading on that and working with the people in this room to get it over the finish line.
Councilman Kettle? Candidate Kettle, excuse me.
Give it time. We'll be there. First I have to go back. It was mentioned about bringing up different issues for political purposes, but the exact opposite was happening in the last question too, because I was at Wild Ginger because I thought it was open for lunch, but it's not. Another example of the impacts on our restaurants, that they're not fully across what they used to be. And there was still challenges. If you went down Third to Pine, McDonald's on that corner, terrible. And so this idea that everything is great it's pretty much a fallacy. Is it moving in the right direction? Yes. But why are we in this position in the first place? It's because the current city council voted to defund, which led to a massive loss of officers, which then created a permissive environment. And I brought this up before. In March, I was listening, because he brought up Third Avenue. Seattle Times, he was shocked that drug dealers were operating with impunity on Third Avenue. The reason why they were operating with impunity on Third Avenue and impacting Benaroya Hall and other areas is because of the actions that the council took that created that permissive environment for those drug dealers and also for random acts of violence. And so we can't just wave that away and say, it didn't happen, because it did, and it happened on the watch of the current city council to include the incumbent in District 7. And that piece needs to be understood, and it cannot be forgotten about with all the, the different pieces. And I think that's an important point to make at first. Secondly, because of that, we have to support the mayor's plan for Activate Downtown. We really need to do that, and the arts piece is going to be massive with that because of the unique circumstances with downtown, and I always say uptown as well. And how can we do that? We have a lot of empty storefronts. Again, the impacts of the decisions made by the current city council with the defund piece. And also I would add, too, the flip-flop on the public drug use and possession bill on June 6th, which created that, furthering that permissive environment idea. But how about those empty storefronts? What can we do on that front? Can we encourage the arts? Can we encourage artists maybe to give that kind of positive feel instead of having those empty storefronts, to have, exhibitions or, some type of thing where artists can display, their art and their creativity. And that's the kind of thing that we need to do, and hopefully we can take advantage of this new King County, the 1/10, 1%, and really put that to place, and to really revitalize downtown, to activate downtown the way the mayor is looking to promote, and I think we can get there. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Good evening. My name is Laura Marie Rivera, and I have lived my entire life in the arts. So I just want to say thank you to you all for being here, and especially Inspire Washington for putting this forum together and just giving us a chance to think about the arts and their importance, especially here in Seattle. So across the country, cities are increasingly leveraging the creation of arts and culture districts to help support and grow arts, heritage, culture, and science throughout their communities. For example, New York City has used arts and cultural districts to target tourism campaigns. Seattle has established multiple arts and cultural districts in Uptown, Columbia City, Hillman City, the Central Area, and in Capitol Hill, along with Seattle's Downtown Historic Theater District. Can you comment on how you might leverage city resources to promote and use advertising to drive tourism to arts and culture offerings in Seattle? And do you have other ideas on how we might leverage these arts and culture districts to help revitalize downtown? And we're starting with you, candidate Kettle.
Yes, part of it is creating those districts. We see that with Uptown, that branding and then the promoting of it, and I think that's so important because of what we have there, with the opera, with the Pacific Northwest Ballet, the PNB, and then the rep in the theater, and then not to mention Seattle Center, the Armory, and all the different things that we have, and we really should look to leverage that, and it's part of that branding process, and then we really need to promote it, and it has to be part of the city's efforts to really, showcase what we have here, which is so great. It's the little things too, and there's different ways to do it. As you're asking the question, I was thinking about the last set of questions. My daughter, who's 8, she was taking dance lessons, and going to the P&B and like the Nutcracker and watching her face look at the stage. Those are the things that we can, highlight and say, hey, this is the experience that we can have, and this is and something that I'm sure Andrew will be doing in a few years himself, a fellow girl dad here. And, this is the kind of thing that we can do moving forward and creating that positive, engaged leadership piece for the city, for the county, for the region, and moving forward. And I think that's, something that's really important, and I think that's something that's, that will resonate. And then with the activation piece that, coming out as we are from the public safety challenges, will really create its own momentum. And then in the end, we'll be in a much better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you so much for a question highlighting our arts districts, and I'm really proud to represent a district on the City Council that has a fair number of them within the boundaries of the political boundaries of the district. First and foremost, one of the things I would like to see is funding restored in our current budget to support the promotion of our arts and cultural districts. The initial budget that has been promulgated to us at the City Council does not include any residual funding or support for the work of our arts and cultural districts, and that's something I would like to work to restore as we look to make some adjustments to the mayor's proposed budget. As we do as a council, we have the responsibility to revise and build upon the budget that has been presented to us. I think that there's a couple of options we could look to restore the $10,000 or so of support that are necessary to support the promotional work of the arts and cultural districts. We could look to our admissions tax, which has been coming in above forecast for the last couple of forecasts, and we're looking forward to the October revenue forecast to see if Taylor Swift weekend in particular has had a good impact on that admissions tax. I'm hoping it does. For the revenue implications, you can call me a Swiftie at this point. I'm sold for what it's doing to our budget, which is great for the arts. But I would also say that we should be looking towards the economic development portion of our Jumpstart allocation to see if there might be a way to have a standing level of support. When we initially made our Jumpstart spend plan or investment plan, it was for a different time. I mean, it was 2020. We had different concerns given how omnipresent COVID was at that time, and we were helping people adapt, recover. Now we are going to be shifting to a recovery mode where we're helping build capacity and get out of the position that this creative sector was put in because of the COVID pandemic and shutting us all down. I think it makes sense for us to have our spend plan reflect the changing circumstances and our changing needs for what we need to move forward and thrive. Our arts districts are going to be a core central part of that. And unless they are properly supported and adequately resourced, we're not going to be able to build those unique cultural identities that we've all come to value, be it uptown, be it downtown, be it Columbia City.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, council member and candidate. We were done with this section, so we're going to move on to our next race. Yes, of course. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone, our last race. This district has our incumbent City Council Member Dan Strauss and candidate Pete Hanning, but we only have our incumbent tonight. So at this point, let's warm up the stage for Council Member Dan Strauss. Hey, take wherever you like. You've got many options. Now I'm going to stay right here. All right.
Oh, you're just going to stay right there?
I am. All right, well, we're going to provide you with 2 minutes just to share a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, share any thoughts you have about arts and culture.
I can't even see who all is out here. Wow, what a great group of people. So I'm there's the flag. Great. I'm Councilmember Dan Strauss representing you in District 6. I work half-time at my City Hall office downtown. I've been going into the office throughout the entire pandemic, and I split the rest of my time at my District 6 office at the Ballard Library because you shouldn't have to go out of your way to have your voice heard by City Hall. My office focuses on 3 top priorities, and that's addressing public safety, addressing homelessness, and creating the housing that working families can afford, because the family I grew up in should be able to afford to live in the Seattle of today and tomorrow. I operate public safety task forces in my district that connect small businesses, residents, and the departments that can meet their needs. In Ballard, we funded, and the Ballard Alliance hired a public safety coordinator to scale up this work. I support fully funding the police and critical alternatives. Today we have community service officers patrolling our streets, park rangers in our parks, Health One responding to emergencies, and it was my amendment that fully funded the police recruitment plan last year, which has resulted in the highest number of applications in over 2 years. I've resolved encampments without sweeps, and I partnered with the mayor to better address homelessness. And today things are better, but better's not good enough for me. I want to raise my kids in a neighborhood that is safer than the one that I grew up in. And I know, growing up in District 6, I see the horizon. It has a brighter future than what we have today, as long as we don't let up. I've dedicated my life to public service, I've navigated hard times, and I've delivered for our district and our city by bringing people together to find common ground. I'm Councilmember Dan Strauss. I ask for your support to keep the momentum and to continue working for you. I'm endorsed by unions, by Mayor Harrell, and many community organizations.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we're really fortunate to have a great spokesperson for our District 6 team. Gina Cavallo has spent 35-plus year career focused on arts nonprofits. A museum curator for most of those years, she managed exhibitions, worked one-on-one with artists and collectors, and wrote stacks of labels and didactic panels, as well as exhibition catalogs for museums, including the Heard Museum in Phoenix, the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art, where she was founding curator, and the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond, Virginia. She served as the executive director of the Mission Inn Foundation and Museum in Riverside, California, before moving to Seattle in 2019 to marry her lifelong friend and life love, Richard Lorig. She has 2 wonderful adult children, May and Connor, and a wonderful stepson, Asher, as well as 2 crazy dogs, Rexa and Steve. Gina is the Director of Development at Taproot Theater in Greenwood, in the heart of District 6. Let's warm up the stage for Gina.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. And thank you, Dan, for coming out as well.
Thank you, Gina.
All right, our wonderful kind of north end of Seattle district group brought together a couple times and had some discussions. These are our questions, fairly practicals. How would you approach your work with city officials, the city staff, on issues such as the unhoused population?
Let me tell you, and so we've got 3 minutes right now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I led the encampment resolutions in parks not once, but twice, at Ballard Commons Park and at Woodland Park without sweeps. And we did this by taking a very forward-looking, very simple actually. We created a census. Who was there? We then did a needs assessment. What did they need? And then we connected them with those resources, and they came inside. And we've seen this happen with the King County Regional Homelessness Authority under the I-5 Ship Canal Bridge, where 100% of people came inside. We saw it a week later in the Chinatown ID with 88% intake. And we're doing it again right now in Ballard, down by the Ballard Food Bank, where we're doing the census, the needs assessment, and connecting people into shelter. Can you read the question one more time?
Sure, sure.
How would you answer it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How would you approach your work with city officials specifically?
Wonderful.
Working on those.
I mean, and so this is part of why the mayor has endorsed me, and it's because I don't blast people in public for the shortcomings of government, and I give sharp criticism internally to make sure our programs work better. And it is about leverage, it's about showing up and supporting. So supporting the service providers to make sure that we have a place in Seattle for our first responders to take folks from needle exchange to long-term treatment, so that no matter where someone is along their path of addiction, they go to the same place. It is, I mean, Karen at the Taproot Theater meets with me every week with our public safety task force, and I know that we're meeting tomorrow, and there's some updates that I probably shouldn't give you here on this stage, but it is really that regular connectivity, because sometimes things get better, but then they get worse. And all along the way, you need somebody in government, and right now that's me, to be your dispatcher, to be your connector to those right departments, and then you need a fierce advocate. And that's what I do. You know, again, I don't blast people in public. I give very sharp criticism internally. And that's how we find common ground to solve these biggest intractable problems.
Very good. All right. Would you support a push for the city to reconsider building parking garages to assist with access to our public institutions? Or do you have ideas for the development of reasonable alternatives to assist with the overwhelming lack of parking issues that many of our organizations have?
Like the Taproot Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the zoo.
And the zoo. The zoo has a couple pretty big parking lots.
Seattle Public Theater.
But,
Yeah,
but still, what's really great, the desire is that we rely on transit, but that doesn't work for families all the time. And it's also not, we don't always have consistent travel times with transit. And then light rail is amazing, but District 6, like the Taproot Theater, doesn't have direct access to light rail. But if we reconfigured some metro lines instead of running the 45 down to the Roosevelt station and took it to the North Gate, you might have a consistent travel time. When it comes to the economics of parking, I'm not going to go into dissertations that I've read many times over about when you provide more parking. Well, let me just talk about in apartment buildings right now. Parking garages are not full because the residential buildings are charging people for those parking stalls, right? And then so they park on the street and they take up your space. And so that's just a private commodity of parking. But when it comes to public amenities of parking, I know in Greenwood in particular, we need to change some of those 2-hour zones into 4-hour zones or into 8-hour zones. We have the same issues in downtown Ballard, where we also have places like the Nordic Museum, and I know that the Majestic Bay Theater isn't really an arts organization, but still, where we need a place for employees to park, where they're not going to have to go move their cars every 2 hours, and a place for visitors to park as well. And so each neighborhood's different.
Very true. Okay, final question. Many of our arts and you just spoke to this really, so many of our arts and culture venues are not served by light rail, as you mentioned, or easily by the bus system. What are your ideas for improving transportation in an equitable way?
Look, we really need to get King County Metro into a different position. And I think, what we saw pre-pandemic was we were going to a place where you could really rely on the bus in a different way that you can today. For me personally, the bus line that I use to get home has been cut. I only started relying on it after it was unreliable for quite some time. And that's difficult. Can you read the question again?
Sure.
This is a little...
Sure, yeah, we weren't expecting you to answer the question when the other question. So,
Sure.
Yeah, just thinking about creative ways and equitable ways to get people to us in an easy manner. And obviously the bus system is an obvious answer. Are there other ideas for how to make that work?
Well, I look at the free waterfront shuttle, right? Mm-hmm. The waterfront is a place that is disconnected from transit and light rail. And the shuttle it's free. It goes to the waterfront, and then it comes into downtown. And I don't know that there's necessarily those same opportunities for other places, but I was at Daybreak Star, the United Indians of All Tribes. They also have very limited parking, and their closest parking is very far away. They had a valet program going, and I don't know if there's a way to do public subsidy of this in the correct fashions, but the ability for somebody to arrive by transit is most ideal. And we know that for a lot of families that's just not possible. And so what are the other options out there? Because transit, whether it's the conditions on the bus reliability, or a place to park, shouldn't be the barrier to enjoying some of the most robust cultural institutions, not just in the Northwest, but next closest would be the St. Paul, Chicago, Salt Lake City, Denver, Sacramento, San Francisco. Those are the next closest places. I know Vancouver, British Columbia is very close, but it's across the border. But downtown Seattle in particular, and that's why I've partnered with the mayor on the downtown activation plan so thoroughly, because it is the connectivity place between the peninsulas, Bremerton, Bainbridge, Kitsap, Vashon, everywhere on I-90, everywhere south to Tacoma and north to Everett. Downtown is, the people who work here are the economic engine of our region. But this is the meeting place, and we have to make it welcoming for everyone.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Stay right there.
Okay.
All right, I'm calling all the candidates back on the stage because we're going to take questions from the audience, all right? So this is how it's going to work. Candidates, please join us. We're going to go through the 3 different districts here. District 1, District 6, District 7. And we're going to allow somebody from the audience to ask a question for each of those races. I certainly know that there are questions that you want to ask that you want all the candidates to answer, but we don't have time for that today. I want to get you out of here at a relatively easy time. So,
Annie?
Yes.
What's your favorite cultural? And don't answer that.
Oh, I love them all. Just in Seattle or in King County or across the state. Who has a question for District 1? District 1? Or a question that you consider to be a citywide question that has bearing on all districts, but it will only be answered by our District 1 candidate here. Anyone? Don't be shy. I guess I don't have to go in order. We can have you think about that. Or District 6. Yes, come on up to the microphone. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes, right there.
Councilman Strauss. It seems like maybe we're trying to build a pyramid, the missing link. So a long time ago they said, hey, let's put up this fancy big structure in memoriam of some guy or something, and it took them a little while. The missing link is taking like how many years now?
27.
I'm sorry?
27.
Well, there you go. So what's the plan? And second part of a related question, to get people bicycling around in the area and so on, how about bringing back the Ballard Criterium, a long tradition in Seattle, bicycle race downtown. The businesses seem to love it. Bicycle racers absolutely loved it. The locals loved it. But permitting problems, it was too expensive, and they couldn't keep putting the race on. A lot of people would be really happy to see that happen again. Thanks for letting me ask you the question.
Of course, thank you.
2 minutes. I am a big fan of the Ballard Criterium. I would go down every single time. I've had very close friends race in that race, and it's like a homecoming in a lot of ways. So if that's possible, again, I can, through my District 6 office and my District 6 district director, we help organizations navigate permitting and so forth. I'm absolutely here to help with that situation. As far as the missing link, yes, my first meeting about the missing link was in 1994. And here we are, still stuck. And there's some really common sense solutions out there. I've proposed my solution that goes down Market and Leary. SDOT right now is working on 10% design to share and get community feedback regarding it. And from there, they'll go to 30% design. They've told me that they'll get to 30% design by December. And so you'll be seeing in the next couple of weeks that 10% design coming out. But what's really critical is that this new trail breaks the mold for what a multi-use trail is. Again, in front of the Nordic Museum, we see what the best practice was 5 years ago. But what's the best practice moving forward? Because a multi-use trail through a commercial corridor increases economic activity. Mm-hmm. A multi-use trail through an industrial zone, I don't necessarily see the benefit or the drawback, but if litigation has held us up for 27 years, my dad was 7 years older than I am today when he first started advocating for the missing link, and I don't want my kids being this old and it not being done.
Thank you.
Fantastic. District 7. Do we have anyone that wants to ask a question of District 7? Any question? Yes, please.
Actually, it's for all of the districts.
Well,
District 7 specifically.
Great.
So in June of this year, under the sponsorship of Councilmember Strauss, the council acted unanimously to create a moratorium on houseboats. And that moratorium has just today been found unlawful by the County Superior Court. So I guess my question is, what is your concern? What's your interest in our houseboat community, which has been found to be culturally important to our city? And how do you see helping our houseboat community as opposed to undertaking legislation which has harmed our community?
As I said in the rules that I said in the beginning, in the interest of fairness, this question is only for District 7 candidates.
We'll listen to District 7.
Okay. And the first candidate would be, in issues of fairness of who would be the next person to start first, it would be Bob.
Well, it's interesting because, as noted, this was done with the current council, and the current incumbent took that vote. And to have the County Superior Court find it to be unlawful, it kind of shows, the due diligence piece wasn't, quite done. And this is one of the things I talk about in terms of having new leadership, the accountability and transparency, but we also have to have good governance. And a big part of having good governance is the ability to have, to reach and listen to all stakeholders. Too often in our city, the council will look at one piece and foregoing the rest of the stakeholders. And in doing that, when they create one solution, they end up creating 1, 2, 3 new problems. So the good governance piece requires that all stakeholders are contacted, and to include that from the houseboat community and others. And and on top of that, good governance also means we have to have positive, engaged leadership, and that means going out and listening again, and then really looking at the nuts and bolts of the situation, and then creating a solution that's equitable, and and really gets to the best of all the the stakeholders involved. And again, the current city council, good governance, don't go together. And so this is one reason why we have to have a reset of the council, and we have to have new council members come in from the outside without having legislative aid experience and kind of coming up from the inside. We need to have council members come from outside with that experience, whether it's, in my case, the Navy, or maybe it's small business with others, or community activists and the like. But that's the kind of thing that we need on the current city council, is the commitment to good governance. And I think this plays out to the question. And then with the bright lights, I will admit it's hard to see exactly where everybody is, but that's the answer to that question for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here at the Transportation and Housing Forum, given the questions that we're getting in the Q&A session. But definitely appreciate the question. As was indicated, we got the ruling from the Superior Court earlier today. I haven't had the opportunity to review it. We'll work with our land use chair, Councilmember Strauss. We'll work with the relevant department, SDCI, to see what the proposed course of action from the city is going to be in terms of going forward and responding to that active litigation. But as always, I'll continue to have an open door with the folks who have a strong feeling on the houseboat building moratorium, and happy to see if there's a way to reconcile this conflict as we continue to go through this year and get out a budget and have our policy discussions in December.
Fantastic, thank you. I do have a backup question for District 1, but I would defer humbly and enthusiastically if there's a question from the audience. Is there any questions for District 1? All right. The City of Seattle has a robust policy that supports creative and artistic program. It is the envy of the state. The City of Seattle dedicates 100% of collected commercial admission tax and distributes it to hundreds of cultural businesses through the Office of Arts and Culture. So my question is, one, if elected, would you remain in support of that 100% dedication of admission tax to the Office of Arts and Culture? And also, since there are other elements of cultural life like science businesses or organizations that are fully focused on heritage, what other ways could we expand funding to bring them into the city's funding approach?
Thank you. So Just so I'm clear, so this is an existing tax, and it's on admissions?
On commercial admissions.
Commercial admissions for any commercial, like, purchase or sale?
No, it's a commercial admission. So if you go to a movie theater and buy a movie ticket, if you go to a Taylor Swift concert, anything that's commercial, not nonprofit. If you go to a nonprofit event like Act Theater, you will not pay.
I would be going to the Beyonce concert, but I was door knocking that night, so I couldn't do it. But, so, listen, you know, that it sounds like that's a really important revenue stream that supports and benefits our broad, inclusive arts and cultural scene here in Seattle, and supports the relevant department that administers that from a city government funding perspective. And you know, I would love to learn more about the history of that specific revenue opportunity, how it came to be about, and the impact that it's had, and making sure there's plans and goals and metrics in place to make sure we're like, again, the taxpayers are getting the most bang for their buck. But I see no reason, I see no reason personally to undo or unwind that in any way. This is a really important part, and that's public safety. So rather than just figure out how to expand or build or grow or find some other revenue source to fund that, I think the number one thing that I can do as a council member is to create the conditions in the streets and in communities across this city to make sure that more people want to come, that live in Seattle want to come to a movie theater or Beyonce or whatever it is, from South County and East County and Eastern Washington and other parts of the state to come here. So that'll help grow right there.
Thank you very much. Well, we're really thrilled to have you here. The last thing I want to share, because it's been mentioned a little bit here, and I know that some of you may not know. There was references to the Doors Open program, and all I want to encourage you to do is pick up a copy of the Seattle Times or visit them online and read this story about Doors Open. Inspire Washington has been an advocate and the proponent for the creation of the state program, the Cultural Access Program. And now here in King County, we have been an advocate to adopt that program to provide meaningful, transformative funds so that every member of King County has greater connection and access to science, heritage, and the arts. And you can visit our website and learn more about that. This decision is not a City of Seattle decision, it is a county council, but of course the cities weigh in and that matters. And we invite you to be part of the process. You can learn more on our website, read the story, and we have weekly office hours for anyone to drop in and ask us questions about this program. We are grateful that you joined us. We really ask all of our cultural partners to share the link to the stream so we can continue to share this conversation with more members of our cultural sector and the communities that count on us as we approach Election Day. Thank you very much. Thank you. Pleasure. Yeah, of course. You too.